I'm Eric Chemi, and this is Politely Pushy. Robin, I'm so glad that we get to talk today because you've done so much. You worked at BET in the early days, you worked for Oprah Winfrey. So these are names that we all know about, but we don't really know the stories behind the stories. And then you started your own business. So you've gone from these giant mega enterprises to doing your own thing. So I'm really glad that we're getting to talk today. So tell me, how cold is it in Chicago right now? Because I'm in New Jersey and it's like 15 degrees. So I assume it's like 0 in Chicago right now.
Oh my gosh, it's 9 degrees here today. Yeah, I'm so not happy about it. But what you're gonna do? The saving grace is that the sun is out, but it is super, super cold.
It
Yeah,
looks bright in
so
there. It looks bright. So you have that nice loft apartment going on over there. You got that cool view. So that is very cool. So tell me, I mean, your career. Anyone can go to your website, right? Beaman Incorporated. They can see the bio. They can see your path, your journey from Howard University to what you're doing now, running your own business. Tell me about that early days going to BET when it wasn't a household name at the time, right? It was still an experimental concept, and it was Bob Johnson's not the owner of an NBA team. So what was that like? What was
right.
that risky move for you like, and what were the early days like there?
Well, I will tell you, I always, even in school, wanted to work for BET. And as you said, it was not a household name. Not a lot of people knew about BET, but I felt like, hey, this is going to be a network that's going to be huge. And I want to be part of building, that brand. So I got turned down 5 times. I tried to work at BET like 5 times. They kept saying no. And eventually, when HBO became a partner, they got this infusion of money. And they were able to bring people on. And so I had an opportunity to work there. The side story in that is that I worked at a museum and had an opportunity to work with Sheila Johnson at that time. And my work there for 5 years helped me get the job at BET. And so it was very exciting there. If you, as you can imagine, they were about 6 or 7 years old when I joined them. They had just gone 24 hours and they had no PR division at all. And so I actually came in as an assistant to their director of community affairs. And I said, hey, Mr. Johnson, you need a PR person. You need a PR division. I'm your person. He was like, yeah, okay. This is what we hired you for. And really, for about 3 months, every time I saw him, I said, hey, you need a PR division. I want to start it. I'm telling you, I'm going to make it happen. And he finally gave me an opportunity. So I can claim that I started BET's first PR division, and I ended up being there 7 years and ended up taking them to the White House, and we did some great work together. So very exciting time for me.
This is crazy. I didn't know any of this. So for you got rejected 5 times before they actually hired you. At some point, were you just saying, after the third time, after the fourth time, or maybe this is not the spot for me? I'm impressed that you kept fighting. And then once you were there, how many times he said no because you actually wanted to create a PR division, and he said no, and you said, no, I'm just going to keep asking. I'm impressed by your persistence.
Well, that's kind of who I am. When I get focused on something and I really want it, then I make it happen. I approached BET as a student at Howard University. I said, "Hey, look, I'll like you don't even have to pay me. Like I'll be an intern. I'll do whatever you need done." That didn't work, and then probably I did that 3 times as an intern, and then while I was working after my first job, then I tried as a I guess a working woman. But part of that is that, listen, the bottom line is that if you get laser focused on something and it's something that you want to do, I think you should do it. I think no is not always no. No is like time is not right. No, maybe I need more information. So I don't easily take no for myself or for my clients. So that's why I kept going back always respectfully. But I think there's a way that you can make things happen for yourself. So it's your mindset. You have to believe that you can do these things. So that's kind of how I live my life.
What is it that people don't realize about working there at that time? It's a PR. You think now, hey, BET, huge name. They don't need they've got tons of PR, right? Like, it seems from the outsider's point of view, this is a well-run machine, and there's just so much opportunity. But my guess is at the time, you know better than me, my guess is it wasn't like that. My guess is you're out there fighting hand-to-hand combat, trying to get attention, trying to get stories, trying to get publicity for this up and coming network that had a different demographic base. Especially you go back, right? You go back 25 years, it's a different media landscape, right? This was such a unique type of product on the cable dial.
Absolutely. So, you had to fight. It was like an interesting time in cable as well. But yeah, I mean, you had to fight for the space. I tell people I've had the experience of working with an organization or company that nobody knew anything about, and I had an opportunity to work with organization like the Oprah Winfrey Show and with Oprah that everybody knew about. But you fight really, really hard. It's a different way of looking at public relations, but when people don't know who you are, you fight really, really hard. I mean, we were fighting to get in the TV Guide. Like at that time, TV Guide was like huge. So, if you were in television, that's where people were going to get information. So, getting people to write about it, getting people to support it, getting the trades to write about it so that we could get more affiliates and get, more subscribers. So, I mean, it was a time, it was like, you work with the entrepreneurial mindset. Like you just get down and dirty, you come up with story ideas and you keep pressing and you keep calling until you make things happen. So that's what we did.
When did it finally click for you and for the Johnson family, for the overall team, that's like, hey, we've made it now?
Wow. Do you ever just make it? I think companies are always trying to get like to the next level, but probably about 4 years in, three and a half, 4 years in, and maybe that was one of the times when we actually it was a big surge. We were able to get a larger sales team, so that meant, of course, more subscribers. I was able to take Bob to the White House. That was a big thing for him, and get in some major publications, built relationships with the trade media, and so they started coming to us with story ideas, and I was pitching story ideas. So I mean, things kind of exploded at that time, and then BET just kind of took off. And like I said, when I started with them, they were just becoming a 24-hour station. So during that like 3.5, 4 year period, they brought in more shows. Remember, music videos became really, really popular at that time, and so BET was right there when it started. So I mean, yeah, things just took off.
And then when did you decide, hey, you know what? I've done everything I wanted to here. Now I'm going to go work for Oprah. Now I'm going to go work for the ultimate household name. Everybody knows Oprah. This is the exact opposite challenge, right? It's one thing to be BET. Hey, we're just starting to get our groove. Oprah is the queen of media at that point. Why the shift? What drew you to that next challenge? And how many times did she say no before you got that job?
Well, I always love a challenge. And I'd been at BET 7 years, and I had given them like my all. And I felt like, I had done really great work there and made built great relationships. But I wanted to do something different. And so Oprah was on my list. I had a few people on my list that I wanted to work with, that I wanted to support their brand. And I believe in the power of prayer. So, and I believe it's important that you write down what's important to you, what goals you have. So I wrote it down. Then I started telling people that I wanted to work there, that I was going to work there. And I remember my mother saying, "Why do you keep telling people you're going to work for Oprah? You don't know anybody there. You don't." I said, "Listen, I'm going to make this happen for myself." And so a friend of mine uh, actually was got a job at the White House, and we took her out to celebrate. And during the celebration, she said, "Hey, I heard that Oprah has a position as a publicist. You should look into that." And so, my goodness, I was on it. And so I called a headhunter that I knew and said, "Hey, listen, can you get me in? All I need is an in. Can you get me an interview?" And then I had done a panel discussion with a gentleman who was a friend of Stedman's. And I called him and I said, "Hey, listen, I know you only know me from this panel. You were, excited about what I shared. Can you get me in?" And they were able, between the two of them, they were able to get me an interview. And I flew to Chicago. I interviewed with 7 people. And the last person I interviewed was with Oprah. And she said, "Hey, a lot of people want this position. Why you?" And literally, I said, "Because God wants me here." And she said, "I'm making you an offer next week. Start packing." I was living in DC. "Start packing. You're moving to Chicago." And that's
That's
how it happened
amazing.
for me. It was
That is an
amazing.
amazing story. That is, you worked every possible angle. I like that even your mom was saying, "Hey, you need to stop talking to people about this." And this the one panel of the guy that knew Stedman, and you were working every angle. And and I was going to ask you, what was that like meeting Oprah for the first time? Because you don't expecting that, you don't know that you're going to meet with her that day, and then here she is
Mm-mm.
walking in. "Hey, I'm your final interview. Why should I hire
Oh
you?"
my
That's
God.
got to be a pretty stressful situation, because if I screw this up, I'm not getting a chance again. This is it.
My heart was pounding. I have to say, my heart was pounding. And it was an interesting day. That particular day, I think they were taping 2 or 3 shows. So I remember, she had a private dining area, for her staff. And I remember waiting in that private area. And, I remember, she owned the building. So people knew, that I was, not part of the staff. So people would come in, they would wave and, say hello. And they were very kind, but I probably sat there maybe about 3 hours. I watched them tape the show. And then as I sat there, she walked in with her makeup artist. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is really something special. Please stay calm. I'm talking to myself. And finally, in her Oprah way, she said, hey, girl, come on over here with me. And I literally sat there with her and a makeup artist as they had lunch. I had already eaten, and she just started talking to me. And then maybe she sensed that I was a little nervous, and she just, wanted, to say, "Hey, you're good. We're friendly folk. Let's just, have a conversation." And we just talked. We talked. I had just gotten back from Paris. We talked about traveling. We talked about Paris. We talked about some of the things that what I loved, and we talked about things that were important to her, and just it was easy. She made it really easy for me. So
That's amazing. So what was that experience like once you got the job? Once you were there, I mean, I assume the team's not that big. I assume it's a pretty close knit team, and everyone's working together. What is it that people from the outside world, they don't realize about? Here's how it works on the inside. Here's what the personalities are like. Here's what you really have to watch in terms of your professionalism. These are the things that are going to matter, and here's the things that are going to get you in trouble. I'm sure people have asked you this so much because they want to know, well, what's it like on the inside?
well, it's about excellence. So yes, it was a tight ship of producers and associate producers and marketing and legal. Yes, it was a wonderful place of excellence. So to be successful there, you have to bring your A game. B game and C game doesn't make it there. And I tell people this was something I wanted. I tell people, be really clear on what you want, because when you work for an icon like that, your job is really to make life, whatever area you're working in, your job is to make life easy for that person and to bring results. And so that's what everybody did. So are there different personalities? Absolutely. But it's great to have that kind of energy, that kind of brain power, that kind of creativity. And you saw what the results of it was one of the highest ranking TV shows in the world. And I loved working there. I loved the lessons that I learned. And listen, one time Oprah surprised me. I'm a singer, and she surprised me one time and introduced me, had me on the show, and introduced me to Patti
Oh,
LaBelle.
you were a
And
guest on the show?
right, like I'm her publicist, and they like I'm in eating in the room with my crew, and they come up with cameras like and surprise me and like, "Hey, we're sending you to work with Patti LaBelle. We know you sing, and this is your opportunity." And I was like, Are you serious?" And she did that. I was on the show, and I worked with Patti LaBelle and her husband, and they worked with me, and they had a club. I sang at the club. Lots of fun. So great opportunities. Yeah.
What is it that connects and Bynes, when you look at the Johnsons, you look at Oprah, right? These are billionaire media entrepreneurs that have started these brands from scratch. It's their name, it's their life's work. What is it that you found they were similar, that you weren't expecting? It's like, hey, there's qualities about both of them, all three of them. There's qualities about them that really are connected here that most people in the outside world they wouldn't realize.
I think perseverance is one. The importance of never burning a bridge is another, and the ability to dream. Like sometimes as adults, we forget to use our imaginations and our imagination and to dream big, even if we don't know how we're going to get to a particular place. Not to, it's important that we don't set limits on ourselves. And they didn't set limits on themselves. Like they dreamed big. They created something that didn't exist. And then they believed that they could make it happen. And so that was inspiring to me. And I saw that with all three of them. And if you look at them now, Oprah had a very successful talk show, and then she dreamed bigger. Now she has the network. So I think the life lesson, definitely one of the life lessons for all of us, is to don't limit yourself. Don't figure out the how. Just have the dream to get it. And I think that if you dream big, you put it down and you put it out in the universe, then doors start opening for you to achieve. That's what I saw.
That's very powerful. What was it for people who, let's say they got jobs at either of these places, or it's, hey, I want to work for Oprah, but was it some people who say, hey, did you realize they couldn't make the cut? They weren't willing to put in the work. They didn't have the excellence. Was there some turnover that you noticed from people who just, they weren't the right fit because they thought it would be all fun and games? They didn't realize how much of this is hard work.
Wow. I don't think anybody came in thinking it was fun and games. Now, is the goal to have a good time, while you're working, and have an environment where you can thrive? Absolutely. But I think all of us can say that sometimes, you may think you want something, you get in a situation, maybe see it's not for you. It's not a judgment call. It's not like I'm bad, you're bad. It's like, wow, this may not be what I thought it was for me. So I think you have that at every organization. At the Oprah Winfrey Show, not much turnover. I think their interviewing process was very on point. You were really clear on what what the expectations were for you in your respective role, and I think they made it as clear as possible. And I mean, hey, it's TV. You know how television is. In any network, if you're with ABC, NBC, CNN, hey, you are making it happen. And so that's the environment people know that they're coming into when they came to the Oprah Winfrey Show. Yeah, no surprises there.
How much was the challenge for doing publicity, for doing press, doing PR for the Oprah Show? Because everyone already knows the show. Everybody knows her. So the challenge is it's a like higher level challenge. Okay, we know that we have brand awareness, but we're trying to get more people to watch. We're trying to get better guests. We're trying to get positive press and not negative press because maybe some guest says it's something crazy or whatever the controversy of the day was. What were the challenges that you were navigating in that job?
So what's interesting is, of course, you're going to always have the TV writer who's going to write about the show, but you can't depend on that person to write about every show. And of course, every producer wants publicity for their show. So you have to become really, really creative, be real clear on like, what is the show about? Maybe instead of the TV writer, maybe it's the medical writer, maybe it's the lifestyle writer, maybe, so you have to look at different ways from the show standpoint to get information out about the show. Sometimes it would be on a national level, sometimes on a local level. If we did a show on Valentine's Day and you had 6 couples, then you're looking at 6 markets. So I think you had to be really creative in coming up with strategies so that you got the word out about the show. The other side of it is managing the brand. Yes, a lot of people, everybody knows Oprah, but you can't do everything. And so then you manage the brand, you manage the reputation, and you decide, what are the best interviews to do and the timing for those interviews as well. So, you use strategy so that you protect and promote that brand and deal with crisis. There, of course, times when you're dealing with the crisis, like you said, you don't know what sometimes um, one of the guests are going to say on the show, or sometimes things happen and you deal with it. So,
How long were you there before you started to say, okay, you know what, I've done this. I'm doing this now. I'm here. I want to be my own entrepreneur. I want to start my own thing. How many years was it before you started to feel that start itch coming for you?
so I will say I've been an entrepreneur since I was 7 years old. So
Okay. Okay. So this has been
I've
going on for a long time.
always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I will tell you at Howard University, they talked about one, having your own, but also learning from the best, putting in the time, and then when it's ready, starting your own and helping other people create their own American dream. And so after 5 seasons of working there, I felt it was time for me to start my own and help others create generational wealth, help others create whatever their American dream looked like for them. I wanted to help them do that. And so I started my own business, and I never looked back. And Oprah was very, very supportive. I love being able to stay in contact, kind of let her know how things were going. That's kind of how she is. She's about empowerment of women. And so she was very supportive of my move, to do my own thing, and continue to stay in touch. And, every now and then send me a letter of encouragement. I really appreciated that because, entrepreneurship is not for the weak of heart. I mean, it's great. I never look back. I love it. Even now, I'm 25 years in. I'm as excited about my business and working with clients as I was when I first started. But you have to have the right mindset. You have to have a winning mindset, and you have to just decide. I don't care what's going to happen. I'm going to win at this, because you're going to have ups and downs. But even in that, you have to decide. Hey, you know what? I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to win. So, um, yeah.
Different skill set, right? Because now it's, you got to bring in business. You got to make sure clients are happy. You don't have just one client. You don't just have the Johnsons or Oprah. You've got many clients. You've got to manage people. You're dealing with accounting and taxes and payroll and your own marketing budget, all of these things. Nobody teaches you that though, right? You can learn your craft. You can learn press and publicity and PR and communications, but then there's all this other stuff. How long did it take until you felt like, okay, I'm starting to get a handle on this? Or is it still, even to this day, 25 years later, I don't want to touch any of the admin stuff. I got other people for that.
Well, you're always learning. You're always learning. So I I'm always in a situation where I'm paying attention to what's happening around me. So I look to see, why is Oprah successful? It's not just a show, it's all these other components around it. Like you said, the financial end of it, the legal end of it, like what are all the things that make it work? I looked at that as well at BET as well. And so when I started, I had a foundation of what it took, but then had I done it myself, I had not. I think I'm a natural salesperson, so I love sales. But I think it's really important for you to invest in yourself. And so what I mean by that is I would look for entrepreneurial programs that I could be a part of. So I would, join business organizations. Sometimes there would be grants that you would get to go through a program. Probably 10 years in, I invested in myself and went to Harvard because they had a professional services program. So I think it's important. And even now, I just finished another entrepreneurial program maybe about a year ago. But I just think it's always important for you to invest in yourself. And what I learned from Oprah was surround yourself with individuals who are excellent at what they do. And if you do, you build a strong team. You bring in people that have these gifts. You respect their gifts, and together everybody wins. And so that is, the foundation in which I built my business, and I continue to build a
How do
business.
you hire? What is it that you're looking for when you're hiring people to come work for you full time?
So my business model is primarily consultants. So I have a consultant business model that I work from. So what has worked for me? I mean, I'm always looking for the best in the business. So You come with your skills, but also what's important is that you have, for me, shared values. And that means you respect the client. You understand, how to talk to a client. You understand how to work in a collaborative environment. You're a team player. You're about excellence, not just getting it done, not just being good, but you want to have an A+ on your paper every time. Now, do we always have an A+? No, but if you strive for A+ and you get an A-, I'm good with that. But it's just, be curious, be a person that is always interested in what's happening in the industry, what's happening in your respective area, what's new, what new can we bring to the client, what are ideas that maybe haven't been done before. So those are the kinds of things that I look for, and I look for independent thinkers. I come in, come ready to roll, come ready to change the world. That's what I want to do. So that's what I look for.
I love it. I love it. And I've got a list of many of your clients here in front of me. And I sort of want to just ask about some of these, because on one hand, I'm looking at so many names that are that Chicago, Illinois area, right? It's Sears, it's Allstate, it's the government agencies of Illinois, it's Ebert Digital. There's so many, University of Chicago. There's so much that it feels like you're running this whole state. You're running Chicago and Illinois PR, but then there's your big corporate clients, right? You've got Comcast, HBO, Dow Chemical, Coca-Cola, Willers, Towers, Watson. I sort of wanted to ask about some of these clients. What are some particular projects that you've been most proud of, or particular companies that maybe their help was like translating to the real world? Hey, we're this big company. We don't know how to reach normal people. We don't know how to reach anybody in the masses. And there's some names on here that you can see like they've had their struggles trying to get their message out. So I'm just curious, what are some of the projects you've been most proud of across that spectrum of names?
Wow. I love all my clients and the work that we do for them. One that stands out right now is Nielsen. Nielsen came to us and they were in crisis. Um, People of color, African Americans, Asians, and the Latino community, they were skeptical. Like who is Nielsen? You want to come in my home? You want to bring these instruments in my home to
Oh,
kind of gauge?
for people to actually volunteer to do the surveys, to be part of the monitoring box. So that's an interesting point that different demographics, they don't know who Nielsen is. They don't trust Nielsen. I don't want you monitoring and tracking what someone so go ahead. That's really interesting already.
Right. So that's what they were thinking. And so it was like, are you the big brother? Like, what does that look like? And sometimes you just have to make a company human, and part of that is going to the experts. So we worked with a Latino owned company, an Asian owned company, and of course, we Black owned, and we did the research. We did the focus groups. What are some of the issues? And then we created communication plans and advertising plans to address that. And over a period of years, because it doesn't happen overnight, they started seeing us in the community. We got people out from Nielsen to go and talk, not just on TV and on other media outlets, but to go into the community, be a good community partner, give in the community. What are some of the needs, so that people really start to get to know who you are, who is Nielsen, who are these individuals. And really, we ended up working with them for 13 years, 13 amazing years.
That's a
and
long time in PR.
It's a long time. So grateful for that. But we won. And so they were over indexing, at one point, because so many families wanted to participate. But it was because, you have to build the relationship. And even after you have the relationship, you have to maintain a relationship. So we tell clients that sometimes once they win, they're like, oh, we're out now. No, that's not what a good community partner is. A good community partner stays in, and you continue that relationship, just like any other relationship, whether it's a marriage or a best friend or teacher, professional relationship. You just can't win and be like, oh, I'm out. You have to win and say, this is important to me. You're important to me. I think you always have to communicate that and continue to build the trust.
You mentioned specifically the Nielsen example, right? They're trying to reach minority groups, people that are not so familiar with, hey, I don't trust Nielsen. You running Black-owned business and knowing that community, working at BET, has that been a big part of what clients are looking at for you? Is like, hey, help us understand we don't know. Like we need your help to figure out like how like the Black community wants to be spoken to, wants the messaging. Has that been a big part of what Beaman Incorporated in particular has been helping with clients?
I would say it is a part of what we do. But some of the work that we we work with Revlon and Cream of Nature, so we love them. We've been working with them for 7 years, and yes, our focus is the African American community, women. Probably first target is women, and then men and families. So, but we also work with Nicor Gas. We work in the energy space, and in the energy space is how do we keep everybody safe? Like
Right.
how do we become a good partner in a community for all people? How do you save energy? How do you save money? So it depends on what the goals are of the client. Do we do work that specializes in the African American community? Yes, but we do work for everybody. Like when we did work for HBO, we focused on a number of shows, not just shows targeting the African American community. So, I mean, we're just like a band of like an interesting mix of journalists, former journalists, and brand gurus, and PR specialists, and community engagement people who just love what they do. And we come together and we make it happen for our clients. So.
What about, I see on your site, you mentioned you've got the White House logo there. You mentioned being able to bring Bob Johnson to the White House in the past. But I'm curious, was there other work that you did there? What was your relationship with the White House?
Yes, with President Clinton. President Clinton had, for the first time, an all Black team, and from Secret Service on down. And I was part of that team when they were doing outreach to universities. And we went to Grambling, and it was just exciting being part of the planning, because there's a lot of planning, and I learned a lot from working with Oprah, like working with the president. But all the planning that goes into that, the security side of it, just the media portion of it, how things are going to be streamed out, all of that. So it was a part and a proud part of that team. It was just a lot of fun.
That's a real great, lifetime experience, right? You do that, you remember it for the rest of your life. I mean, this has been amazing, Robin. I appreciate the time. Thank you for spending time with me and talking about your journey. This has been fascinating. There's going to be so much that I think about now overnight and over the weeks to come, to think about what does no mean, right? Does no mean, okay, it's not yet, but maybe later, and the persistence and raising your level to be excellent all the time. Robin, I appreciate the time today.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, Eric. Have a good one.
Thank you to my guest, and thanks for listening. Subscribe to get the latest episodes each week, and we'll see you next time.